So that is a short snapshot about what we try and do here. So as I say, I'm the Vice Principal, I'm here to welcome you. What we do here, one of those questions, is always about actually what is a conservatoire? Because we're not a university, we are a higher education institution, we're not a private provider, and what we are is a conservatoire. We're a 50-year-old conservatoire, and one of the first questions usually is, well, what does that actually mean? And it, broadly speaking, means three things. First of all, it means that you will have one-to-one tuition, and it means that that one-to-one tuition will be in a professional environment. That's the second point. So this is obviously a classical or a jazz space, but we also use pop spaces, and sometimes those pop spaces may be quite grim, because that's how they should be. Pop music is played in grim, grimy environments, and that's perfectly acceptable and right. There's no point you playing in an artificial place. So it's one-to-one tuition, it's professional environments, and the third thing that makes it conservatoire is the staff. The staff are no good if they are not practitioners active in their areas. It's no good if you're learning film music just from somebody who knows a great deal about film music or analyses film music. You also want to know that they are a working composer. That's really important. And that's the same for every course here, whatever it is, songwriting, whether it's classical, whether it's jazz. They need to be those practitioners first, and that's really important. It's that combination of those three things. So as I say, you will have lots of questions probably about being what a conservatoire is, what it's like to study at a conservatoire. You'll also have questions probably about admissions, about finance, about disability. Again, it's important that we have a strong support structure around you as performers. So one of the things we're quite sort of proud of is that we might be the largest conservatoire in terms of student numbers, which is true. We're about 1,300 undergraduates. But that's because the craft that you study as performers is constantly evolving. It doesn't stay still. Music doesn't stay still. Performance doesn't stay still. Acting styles don't stay still. Musical theatre doesn't stay. None of these things. They're constantly subdividing and going into different new genres. And again, that's really important that we are evolving with that. We used to be, or rather, sorry, the music industry used to be the kind of place where people would see a institution like this and kind of hover around and wait for graduates to come out and then pounce and go, right, we want to work with you. Actually, now it's the other way around. They're beginning to see that the innovation is in these kind of places. I'm not saying we're unique. There's lots of fantastic places to study music. I'm really not trying to be dismissive of other places. But the really good ones are innovating and allowing the students who are here, who come here to innovate and decide what kind of music they want to make. It's not about us. It's not about us telling you what kind of genre of music you should play or write or how you should interpret a 300-year-old score. That's where the innovation is. It's about you as the individual. So we've always moved into other areas, and again, we're always evolving. We've now have added musical theatre, and acting will start next year. And that's partly because there is a slightly romantic, almost visionary idea that we have here, that one day we will have performances where you'll have a score that's written by classical students or musical theatre students, that's being performed by actors and musicians, played by our musicians, recorded and produced by our music production students, marketed and sold and made wonderful by our music business students, to create a kind of ecosystem of all these communities of different workers together. Because again, that's really important. We have all these different courses, but they're not sort of separate from each other. We want the students here to break down the boundaries between, different kind of genres so that they can be innovative, so they can work with different students. So that if you're a music producing student, you're making whatever you want to make, but you might think, actually, I might need a string section, or I might need some brass players. Those kind of opportunities should be available to you here. So how you can study here is also relatively flexible. There are different routes of how you can go through degrees here. These are all available to you. So, for example, you could do what most people do, which is a 3-year route. Come and study, say, classical or music production for 3 years. That's a very sort of common route. Majority of our students go that way. There's also a 4-year route, which is a foundation year plus 3 years, but it's a 4-year route. Now, in that case, there may be some areas that you feel, as a performer, you aren't quite ready yet, or you're not quite there as a songwriter, or not quite there as a composer in some way, or your technical skills aren't quite ready. That is a possible route, and then you move forward into the 3-year course as everybody else does. There's also some combined routes. This is not every course that you can do together, but there is a variety of these that you could take. For example, jazz with pop, or pop with musical production, classical with jazz, these kind of things. Now, the main difference about combined routes, and again, the pathway leaders who you'll meet today can talk about this as well, is it depends on where your one-to-one tuition is. So, for example, if you were a classical student and all you do is classical, you'll be doing one-to-one tuition on your main instrument, and then in your group work in ensembles, you'll be playing classical music as well. But it might be you're studying, I don't know, classical with pop. And it might be you're a classical singer, and you might be doing your one-to-one tuition will be as a classical singer, but then in the combined route, your group work, let's say you're doing classical with pop, would be in the pop genre. We also have 2 foundation degrees, so these are 2-year degrees. One's in music production, and one's in electronic music production. And the difference there is they're slightly more vocational, if you like, but the main difference between the two, obviously they're 2 years, so they're shorter. You may be more of a hurry to get into wherever you want to be. But the big difference is music production is about capturing live sound in some way, recording it in some way, and then manipulating it. Electronic music production is less about capturing live sound and more working in the box, if you like. It's also genre-wise, it obviously tends to be more towards sort of dance music or hip-hop, rather than, say, I don't know, rock music. But I'm being in very broad terms there. Finally, there is our MA, our master's route, an MA Music, which is a postgraduate course that some of you may be interested in doing. So you'll have done an undergraduate course somewhere else, and now is the opportunity where you can really start refining what you want to do, to really sort of hone in on the detail of your craft and your skill. So all of these are possible routes, and the idea is that it's as flexible as possible. One of the more obvious things that people see when they come here are actually the facilities. It's one of those easier things to sell, which is the questions about where does the money go. The money goes quite a lot to the facilities and maintaining the facilities, maintaining Steinways, which are nightmarishly expensive. But in terms of keeping studios, there are 70-odd practice rooms. I think we're up to 11. I have to look up. I think we're up to 11 studios. And some of those are very bespoke to certain courses. They're only used by certain courses. So we have songwriting suites, which are quite small because they're about working up a song, working up a demo, rather than necessarily recording a full band. As I say, there's this venue. There's another venue downstairs. There is a theatre space in the new building, as we keep calling it, because it only opened this year. So people come, there's an educational cliche about people coming for the facilities quite often. They see it. It's nice and tangible. You can see what where you'll be. So as I say, this is the new building around the corner. The 5th floor of this building is ours, and it's where, as I say, musical theatre and acting, and also where at the moment there's some pop in there as well. So we're constantly expanding, trying to maintain the quality of the facilities that you might be in. But facilities are only one part of the story. People mainly come here because they want to perform, whatever they are, whatever route they've taken. There is always a generally, even music business I think is quite interesting, because you wouldn't necessarily always think of those as performers, but actually the act of selling something, selling an idea, is quite a performance in its own right. One of the things that's great here about the students is there's sometimes an idea that music's like an easy option. It's not an easy option, and it produces in you the most incredible transferable skills. If you've ever seen one of those programs like Dragon's Den, where some really, sweaty man is getting really anxious before a panel trying to sell their terrible invention, I was thinking if they've done a music degree, they'd be so much better. They'd be able to sell their terrible invention in a tremendous amount of confidence. I suddenly feel the analogies run away into somewhere probably shouldn't have gone. But the point I'm trying to make is about how transferable music is as a skill. It teaches you to be a leader. It teaches you to work in a team. It teaches you to collaborate. It's not an easy option. It's not just messing around. That's what's wonderful about it. It's serious about something that you really love, and it's serious about something that can have tremendous impact on other people. Music, in terms of all performance, is an amazingly economical way of expressing a feeling to another human being. And people always say, what's the point of art? You go, well, there's the point of art. I can tell you a story, I can write it down, and it will take 6 months to read or whatever. But I might write a song that will express how happy I am about the world, or angry about the world, or those kind of emotions. It's this beautifully economic way of getting across a fantastic experience. So people come here and they perform. And these are some examples of the ensembles that students can audition for. Anybody can audition for them. It's not like you have to be, if you're a pop student, you can't audition for a classical thing. It's not like that. A lot of them are run by us. A lot are run by the student unions. Again, very important that we have a kind of, just because it's run by the student union or it's run by us, it doesn't make any difference. They're both important. So a great range of things you can perform with, and there may be people coming in to perform with our students. So here's an example.
Elcombe Contemporary Pop Choir is an exciting and innovative choral ensemble that we have here at Leeds College of Music. Well, the choir originally did a small part of the concert with Mark when he came in October of last year, and Mark had a lot of really wonderful things to say about the choir and about the way that we arranged things and the way we approached his music. And so when the opportunity came for us to do the 2 gigs at the Leeds Town Hall and the Royal Festival Hall, we were back on board.
My role in the project has been primarily as an arranger. Early on in the project, Mark sent me a list of songs that he really wanted to do, and so I set to work arranging those for the students. A lot of the students are ones who've played before in the New Music Collective, an ensemble that I run, so I know them well. I know their skills and their strengths, and so it's been really good to try and arrange those songs, bespoke songs really for them. Now that we're in the kind of end stage of the project, my role is as musical director really, so I'm doing a lot of the conducting and steering the ship, as it were.
Well, I have to say, actually, I've worked with a lot of musicians in my time, in 35 odd years music, when I've been making music. This is one of the best things that I've ever done. The musicians, the choir, the arrangements, I've just been completely spot on. It's been a real treat. When I kind of decided to do the project, I wanted to do something a bit different and do kind of torch songs and sort of sad love ballads and things. I didn't realise there was so many of the songs that I didn't know, and it was kind of a daunting thing to kind of learn the words. But I didn't have to worry about the music at all, because as soon as I came along to the first rehearsal, and I heard the standard of the music and the arrangements and Damien's arrangements, and I just thought, well, this is the easy part. I feel confident and I feel secure.
How many times must a heart stand and ache and a pain? How many hurts can one bear without going insane?
Doing a project like this, what everybody needs to do is be ultra professional, and so it's been a perfect thing for the students to do from that point of view, that they've got to be organised, they've got to have learned their music, but I think they knew straight away that this was, you know, a pretty special occasion really, and so they were definitely inspired.
Performance is very important, and how we do that is about what partners we then work with, whether that's other festivals, whether it's other parts of the country, other festivals all over the place, whether it's with the BBC. The BBC is next door. We actually have lines that we can record in here to go straight through to the BBC next door. We have some European partners where we do some kind of songwriting projects or some kind of pop. Actually, the main one are songwriting projects at the moment, where students go around to different parts of Europe and are working with them. So it's about performance, performing outside, performing inside, and about how we can get the students into other festivals around the country.
It's nice to kind of take Elcom out of the bubble and like unleash it into Liverpool.
Yeah. It's just really nice, isn't it, to just go and do something with a load of people.
Going to Liverpool to represent Elcom.
Yeah.
Really great community feel as well.
Yeah, it was a really nice set.
Got a new fan?
We gained a fan.
Yeah.
Really good opportunity for Leeds College of Music to showcase some of the talent.
And I hear you sigh between these breaths.
Are you high or something? Do you just love to lie? You see, I can't even think straight.
Stand down at 45.
Amazing. Seeing everyone play, it's so good. There's so much good music to discover.
You that I care, why'd you have to be so?
The best thing about Town City is, I think, just sharing the stage with other musicians, I think.
I feel so inspired and supported. If you put the effort in, the work in, they're there to back you.
And it's also nice to play in a different environment, I think, rather than
we're usually just in a small room.
Yeah, it's been great.
So, as I say, getting the students outside. There are also opportunities within. So we have a series of lunchtime concerts. There are showcases. There are opera projects that we run each year. There's an end-of-year gala concert in particular, which is a great showcase for everything, so there's a real broad range of what we do here, as well as individual monthly nights, which are quite special because quite often we will get the people who are coming in to do masterclasses, maybe then doing workshops and then gigs with the students in the evening. So this is exactly what that is, which is a jazz event called the B-Side.
I think B-Side is a great opportunity for people to come together.
You learn a lot watching such amazing musicians play.
It's a great kind of entries level for first years to kind of like start playing with other people, start to meet other people, and we get amazing guests in.
The gig was absolutely amazing. You know, I think we pulled off something that was quite energetic, and I'm really glad lots of people came along and you know, supported us.
You know, tutors get involved as well, that's always nice. The guests are always there. It's pretty chill.
B-Side is one of our regular jazz nights we put on for the students. So there's 3 different nights actually that happen, and B-Side's one that happens in-house. There's a staff gig, which is normally the workshop artists or faculty playing together, and then the students do a gig. It's like a kind of headline gig after that for like 45 minutes. And there's a DJ in the bar who plays our amazing vinyl archive, which we have here at Leeds College of Music. It's a great chance for staff and students to sort of play together and collaborate. And at the end of the night, there's like a huge jam where all the students and the visiting artists are playing together, and everyone's kind of giving each other feedback and sort of supporting each other.
I would hope if we jam with the students that they will realise, wow, I'm doing a solo and Jason's really listening. He's really intently listening to what I'm doing, and whatever I'm doing, it's really affecting what he does.
The jam helps me figure out how to play with other people in a really comfortable setting.
If you get that idea of interplay and listening at a young age, then the music that they're making with each other is just going to be so much more profound.
I find that I'm able to like put my ideas out there, and then someone will grab onto that, change it slightly, and then I'll grab onto that, and it's kind of this kind of nice communication in music.
We'll be playing at least one of Jason's pieces. We will probably do a standard or at least an arrangement of a standard. I'm not sure what that's going to be yet, but it's quite nice to touch upon that.
So it's about the facilities, the performance opportunities. It's also about who you're being taught by. As I said at the beginning, they have to be practitioners. One of the other things that makes the Conservatoire is about the number of masterclasses of professional musicians coming in who aren't there as teachers, but actually as professional musicians. And that's such a valuable part of the experience as well. So it's a big industry. It's a growing industry, the music industry. And I think one of the most interesting things is what you will do as a career is you'll have what's called a portfolio career. You won't be just doing one thing. And again, that's really important, that we're honest and support you in that, the notion that you will be, if you are a music producer, you may be producing someone's record one week, but actually then writing another week. You may be playing with somebody else, you may be touring, you may be teaching. There's a great range of activities that you will do, and that's how all professional musicians work, professional artists, I should say. And Britain is really good at it. It's one of the things Britain is really good at is the creative industries. So I think there's sometimes a notion that the music industry is all feast and famine, that you're either this extraordinary massive star or else you're nothing. And that is not a reflection of the reality that the vast majority of people are having these portfolio careers and doing different things at different times. And one thing will support another part of one arm will support another part of your practice, and that's really important. And our students do well. They do lots of different things, whether they're producers, composers, whether they're in music journalism, whether they're teachers, all these things, a great range of careers of what people come out of here. And that's just a few examples. These are real examples, and I flagged these up because I think they're all interesting in different ways. So Alex did a combined degree. She did classical with pop. She was a classical cellist and a pop singer. So as a classical cellist, her one-to-one was as a cello in the classical genre, if you like, but her ensemble work, her work in groups, was then as a pop person singing. Now, why she's interesting is her success is because she so crosses over so many different genres. She'll work with heavy metal acts, she'll work with hip-hop, she'll do quite commercial things, she'll do very uncommercial things. And that's quite interesting, but always as a cellist. So she has this tremendously interesting career. She graduated 2-3 years ago, and is a great example of that kind of portfolio career where she's still fundamentally a cellist, but she can be a classical cellist or a pop cellist or a variety of things. This is another example. So Dan was really only composing music for Moving Image. However, here, what the portfolio aspect, if you like, is that what those images were is quite varied, whether they're big film scores or whether they're computer games or TV or whatever. It's a variety of things. And again, that's the other thing that's odd about the music industry is people, again, forget how many parts of the music industry there are in terms of what roles there are within it, whether they're songwriters, producers, whatever. So he's a very successful composer for music for Moving Image. Some people are completely, that's all they do. Ashley is a great example. He was on the Radio 4 last Saturday, actually, on Loose Ends. He's a fantastic jazz pianist. That's all he does. He plays his music how he wants to do it with who he wants to do it with. There's no flexibility there with Ashley. All those things I've said about collaboration, it's like, no, this is my vision, this is what I want to do. And then there are people like Luke, who's a great example of his day job, if you like, as a session guitarist. A lot of people come into being session musicians out of this place. His day job is a session guitarist. But the rest of his time is about how he's a songwriter for other people. And he's a great example of someone who comes back here. In a perfect world, you have students who've become very successful who then come back here to do masterclasses, and you get a lovely kind of closing of the circle, if you like, of seeing what they've achieved because what they learnt here. Or they are doing something else in a completely unexpected way. So Jasmine was writing songs for a film called Crazy Rich Asians, but then ended up performing those songs in the film. So suddenly her career has changed again because it's much more about, if you like, or acting and performance and her as a person. And finally, someone like Dan, who I think is another good example about the multitasking. His day job, he's a drummer. He's a session drummer for Liam Gallagher, various other people. But again, he's songwriter on the side. And it's that really important about how that doing different things, crossing over about what things you might be interested in, is a wonderful way to succeed as an alumni from this institution. So that's really all I wanted to say. I've been quite long-winded, so apologies. But yeah, so I really hope that you enjoy today and you ask lots of questions and try and embrace what this building is all about.